You know, a common red flag for women, or at least so they say, are guys that are nonchalant, right? And this is something I've been seeing a lot on dating apps, you know, women talking about how they hate guys that are nonchalant, how they want guys that are obsessed, men who yearn X, Y, and Z. And this actually is not true. What they actually mean is that they hate guys that are nonchalant who they are already with, guys who they are already dating, guys who they are already attracted to on some level. That's how they're actually thinking about it, and you have to make that distinction. Like, bro, this does not apply to you if you are just starting out trying to get that girl, or if the feelings aren't already reciprocated, or if she's not already attracted to you. A nonchalant guy is basically a guy that has a calm or relaxed demeanor that comes off a bit lackadaisical, lack of care, or maybe having a lack of enthusiasm. Like, obviously when they're imagining the guy that they're with, the guy they're attracted to, her man, her boyfriend, etc., the last thing a girl would want is for him to have a lack of care or concern for her in the relationship. It's like, yeah, no shit, that's common sense. Obviously, they would prefer a guy to show that he cares or gives her random acts of affection or thoughtfulness, as opposed to a guy who's nonchalant. When women are in relationships, they want to feel secure, they want to feel loved, they want to feel reassured. They want their guy to do these random acts of affection that remind her of these things, obviously. But again, when you are just starting out, when you are trying to get at her, when the feelings of attraction aren't already reciprocated on her end, being too chalant is probably the fastest way to turning them off or getting ghosted, etc. And I really want to make this clear because guys will hear this nonsense and go, yeah, I should be obsessed with her off rip. You know, I should try to throw the kitchen sink at her right from the start because they say they love men who are obsessed, men who are chalant, men who yearn X, Y, and Z like a dummy. And most girls, most women will disagree with what I'm about to say. Number one, because they like the attention, and number two, because it validates them. And this is actually another reason why women will always go out of their way to defend simping. They'll always say like, no, I want him to show me that he cares. I want him to text me good morning. I want him to buy me flowers. Again, what they don't understand is that they are already picturing the guy in their mind who they are already attracted to. The guy who they already like, the guy who they're already with, being obsessed or chalant over her and doing all those things. And this is essentially why, as a guy, as a dude, as a man with a set of balls between your legs, you never listen to a woman's advice on attracting them. They're not necessarily lying or being backwards on purpose. They just don't know what they're talking about. It's kind of like this. I'll give you an example. Most women will tell you that I like it when a man cries. It's okay if a man cries. I like when a man cries. I like when a man shows his emotions. And this is 1000% not true. What they actually like is they like seeing a guy cry if it's not normal. They don't actually like the crying. They like seeing the contrast from how he normally is. Like whenever women say that, they're picturing a guy with a hard exterior and him shedding a tear and showing a soft side. Not some guy who's constantly bawling his eyes out. And again, this is where you gotta read in between the lines, right? Because the rationale for this 9 times out of 10 is gonna be something along the lines of, oh, I love when a man shows his emotions. So what she's really doing is that she's imagining the guy who normally doesn't show his emotions. Because I guarantee you, if you were just some guy who cried all the time, do you genuinely believe that she wouldn't lose attraction to you? And again, this is why you can't listen to women. You always gotta read in between the lines somewhere. And again, I'm not saying you gotta be 100% nonchalant all the time, because on some level, guys will always be the pursuers. Women will hardly if ever pursue unless you're like Chris Brown or Drake or something, or, you know, some guy in BTS if she's Asian. So you actually do have to be chalant on some level. You do have to be the one to initiate or communicate your interest. So you do have to show that you care in that aspect. But generally speaking, moving in a nonchalant way is 100% better than being too chalant. Especially in the beginning stages when it's not mutual and you're trying to get at this girl. Because every single woman can smell if a guy has options. She can smell if you're her only option. Just based off the way that you talk to her, your demeanor, your energy, etc. When a guy doesn't have options, there's this needy energy that comes with it, and it's a lack of social proof, right? It's like she might be thinking, he's not a bad guy, maybe you're average looking, but if no other girl wants him, then I don't really want him either. It sounds fucked up, but it's true. This is why growing up, right, a lot of girls had a crush on the same guy. And this is something that they can tell even based off your opening message. Like for a lot of guys, when they first message, DM, or text a girl or whatever, right? They can tell when you're trying too hard. They can tell when you care too much. It reeks of desperation. And when you come with this energy of caring too much, you end up playing it safe and you sound boring and passive and overly excited. Like you're probably not even saying anything necessarily wrong, but it just turns them off on an inherent level. Remember, you never want to do anything that positions yourself below the girl that you're trying to get at. And this is really important because when you speak to her this way, right, when you come off too chalant, she feels or she thinks that she's above you. because you're placing her on a pedestal just based off the way that you talk to her. So why would she then be attracted to you? And this is actually how some guys who are attractive enough to pique her interest, let's say you get a match, let's say you DM, let's say you cold approach and you get her number, right? A lot of guys will fuck it up by over communicating their interests right off the bat. Just caring too much, just being too chalant essentially. You know, you're in this state where you're just trying to say all the right things, and girls have clocked over hundreds of these guys. Even average girls have had guys come up to them, slide in the DMs, you know, on dating apps, and they've ghosted or rejected hundreds of these guys. You know, the first message is something along the lines of, hey, haha, how was your day, how's your week, etc. Which is surprisingly how most guys start a conversation. Just being too overly enthusiastic, being too chalant, caring too much, filtering 80-90% of your speech. And it's not genuine either because you don't really care how her day or how her week was. What you really want to do is have sex with her or maybe get to know her if you want a girlfriend. You'd probably be better off telling her that you want to make love to her while making deep eye contact, like real talk, by telling her that you want to give her deep, slow strokes and have triplets on the first time. Okay, maybe not that part, but you get what I'm saying. When you care too much, when you are too chalant in the beginning, it's unattractive and it reeks of desperation, and women will never tell you this. And I'm saying that without a shadow of doubt because I've been there. Like, I've shown plenty of conversations throughout this channel, you know, text, dating, phone conversations, etc. The most successful ones that always translated to getting a date was when I genuinely did not care whether I got her to go on a date or not. I probably said the most random, autistic, sarcastic shit just because I'm having fun and it's my personality, right? I don't really care. It's not really about what you say, more so the energy that you come with. And bro, each and every single time, the less I care, the more it worked out for me. Like, forget about listening to girls or guys or even what I say, right? Like, think about your experience. What has worked out the best for you? And to even further prove my point, right? Think about when you were growing up. You know, think about the girls that liked you or the girls that had a crush on you, right? They were always the ones that you weren't really attracted to. There's actually a very good reason for this aside from the fact that we have a natural inclination to want what we can't have. And that's essentially because around those girls you had a nonchalant energy. Because you genuinely did not care whether or not they liked you back. You didn't care about her opinion of you. So what naturally happens is that you are fully able to be yourself. You were able to say all the things on your mind. You know, that's when you crack the funniest jokes. That's when you're the most charismatic, most confident version of yourself. But all of a sudden, around the girl that you were attracted to, all of a sudden you became a weirdo. From the way you talk, the things you say, your energy, you can't make eye contact, you can't talk the way you normally do. You know, all of a sudden you forgot to speak English or whatever language you speak, right? It's because you care so much about getting her to like you, getting her number, getting her to go on a date with you, etc. When this happens, you begin filtering the speech in your mind, which is why you stutter, which is why you get nervous because you're scared to say something wrong. You know, you become scared to offend her, to turn her off, so you end up speaking in this very passive, very boring way. You end up speaking in a way which hundreds of guys have already spoken to her before. It's why they ghost guys so fast. It's why they lose interest really fast because they've already clocked hundreds of these guys. Even the most average girls have had guys approach them, you know, DM them, come up to them, etc. Women want guys who can excite them, guys that make it feel fun for them. You can't get into this mindset and this energy if you care too much. Like, there's a very good reason why we don't respond right away when we see her text, right? It's not that you're purposely doing it, you just know how that comes off. It communicates this level of desperation or neediness that you have no options, and this is why everyone does this. And don't get me wrong, right? I'm definitely not out here saying that it's easy to do. Like, bringing that nonchalant energy to the girl that you're attracted to from the girl that you're not is an insanely hard thing to do. But the first thing you gotta do is to treat it like a numbers game. This is why in the beginning stages, just like women do, you never put all your eggs in one basket. Again, when it's not already reciprocated, you never just talk to one girl. Because you will care too much, you will be too in deep. You know, you will be more invested than she is. You gotta talk to multiple people so you disperse your attention. Because this will naturally translate into energy through which you communicate. You will just naturally care less if you're talking to multiple different people. Like, it's a lot harder to pretend like you don't care if she's actually the only girl that you're talking to, while she's still talking to multiple guys. And this is essentially the crux of the issue, right? Most guys just don't have options. So when you finally get a girl that's able to talk to you, respond to you, they get overly excited. They over communicate their interests. Like, bro, this is something I'm gonna say over and over. There is nothing that will turn a girl off more than when you come with this energy. Remember, she is not yours until she is actually yours. The second thing you gotta do is genuinely be indifferent to the result. Meaning that if you don't get the date, if she ghosts you, which is a possibility, it is what it is. Obviously, you're gonna care on some level if you are attracted to her, but you have to be okay with that reality. The most painful experiences is when your expectations don't align with your reality. Never let your expectations get away from what it actually is, especially under the context of dating. I'll give you an example, right? There's certain videos that I post that I already know how it's gonna do. You know, if I know it's not gonna do well, it gets an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I'm okay with that because it's in line with my expectations. However, the one that hurts the most, and every creator will tell you this, is when you thought it was gonna do well and then it absolutely tanks. You know, you're expecting to see all those green arrows and then you look at it and it's all gray. But basically make sure that your expectations are in line with reality. Because what happens is that when a guy is just talking to one girl while she's talking to multiple guys, you naturally start thinking about her a lot, you fantasize about her, you're thinking about having sex with her, you become way more invested in your relationship than she is. You know, she gives you a smiley face or loves a message and all of a sudden you're on cloud 9. That's when you start to care too much, when your expectations get away from reality. And this is essentially how when you get ghosted or she stops talking to you, you get absolutely crushed. Like bro, I'm telling you, there's a drastic difference in results when you care less when you're nonchalant, as opposed to caring too much, and this was definitely the case for me. There was a girl that I fumbled that was pretty bad in the beginning stages of dating. You know, she was a bit younger than me, she was 23. She was one of those like Hispanic Latina girls that kind of looked a bit white. You know, she had mid to short brown hair, really pretty eyes. And this was after I got out of a long-term relationship where I was out of the game for like damn near 3-4 years. So basically I was like getting my feet wet again when it came to talking to women. And I remember this conversation because I was talking to her like a golden retriever. I was talking to her like a buddy, like I didn't take a single risk. You know, just way too overly excited, too many smiley face, a lot of ha-has and LOLs that were misplaced. A lot of long text messages or boring topics like hobbies and traveling, things that you're supposed to talk about on the date. You know, didn't really make any jokes, didn't flirt, no sexual jokes, no sarcasm, no banter, didn't make fun of her, didn't challenge her, etc. Basically a 101 on how not to flirt, how to be a friend to a girl essentially. And we actually went back and forth for about 11-12 days, and it was only when I started to feel her getting bored when she responded slower did I finally go take a risk in the conversation and go for the number. And when she gave it to me, she kind of had this energy where it was like, finally, like how long were we gonna go back and forth? And in retrospect, I could tell that she could tell that I was one of these guys that, you know, didn't really have experiences, you know, just a really nice guy. So she gave me her number, right? And the first text that I sent, I won't say it, but it was probably one of the most cringiest things I've ever said. Like that's one I'm probably gonna take with me to the grave. But she never responded, of course. And I was like, yeah, I fumbled that one hard, like just gotta chalk it up to the game. But I learned from my mistake, right? I learned everything not to do moving forward. Again, like I said at first, right? One thing you can always count on is your experience to teach you. Like at the end of the day, right? Forget about what some girl tells you or what some guy tells you or what I tell you. What does your experience tell you? It's like if you keep getting the same result from the same approach, then learn from it, analyze, grow. Realize what you did wrong and then adjust accordingly. It's like Einstein said, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Remember, in the beginning stages of dating, when you are too chalant, you are subconsciously positioning yourself below her. And women can feel this and it turns them off because they want to date someone who they feel is superior. And the most successful approach, at least for me, was when I came with a nonchalant energy, but I was still able to communicate interest. Like that's how you're able to hold your value while not being overly desperate for her reciprocation. And bro, when you're able to channel that energy, you won't be afraid to make jokes, make fun of her, flirt, make sexual jokes, be sarcastic, etc. And they're attracted to this. And listen, right, I get it, it's kind of annoying. With women, it's always this like perfect little middle ground that you always have to play in. I'm definitely not saying it's easy, right? You know, you can't be too chalant, you can't care too much because you over communicate interest and it's a turn off. But you also can't come off too nonchalant like you don't care about her at all because eventually she's just gonna move on if she doesn't think you're interested. You know, you gotta be responsive but not too responsive where it comes off as desperate, right? It's always this perfect little moderation where they're looking for. But you know, it is what it is, it's the game we play. Anyways, hopefully you guys got some from that, gave a lot of game there. Hope you guys are doing well, make sure you guys stay true. Talk to you guys real soon. Peace.